now the day after
memo day.
So great to have you here, Rachel.
Thank you.
We're glad you're safe and sound. You were on that train heading to the retreat, the Republican retreat with your husband and family. Everybody's safe and sound. We obviously mourn the loss of someone
Absolutely.
who lost his life in the moment.
And another one in critical condition, but we're happy no one else
Glad
was
you're
hurt.
safe and sound here on
Thank
the couch
you.
with Todd as well.
It's good to be here. And a huge week. Obviously, a huge week because of that, and not the least of which, the memo. We have so many takeaways from this, but we're going to focus on 4 right now. First of all, the dossier was the key to the FBI's application to spy on members of Trump's team. 2, the court never told about the dossier's political roots. The court never told Christopher Steele was passionately anti-Trump. And Andrew McCabe testified the FISA warrant resulted from the Steele dossier. To break all this down, we're going to bring in Raj Shah, Principal Deputy White House Press Secretary. And Raj, when you saw this memo, what were you thinking?
Well, good morning, guys, and thanks a lot for having me on. You know, we think it's a pretty big deal, frankly, you know, to show that in the middle of a presidential campaign, the FBI and the Department of Justice would rely on campaign opposition research, shoddy opposition research, I'll add, to justify a warrant for spying on the other campaign. It's a pretty big deal. It's pretty outrageous. I love how Democrats are saying it's a dud. It doesn't mean anything. They've used argument after argument, and it doesn't really stand up. This is a pretty serious allegation here that's laid out in this memo, and they aren't actually arguing the facts. They're saying there are other facts, but you know, it lays out a very serious charge, and if this is going on, you know, frequently within the DOJ and the FBI, it's something we really need to look at.
Raj, a very serious charge, as you say, and this is not just about political fallout. As the memo itself says in the first paragraph, there are legal questions here about whether some of our most senior government officials, first in the Obama administration, but then carrying over to the Trump administration, broke the law, whether or not people at the FBI and the Justice Department follow the law. So my question to you is, what is going to be the fallout from what you just said is so serious? Is Rod Rosenstein's job on the line?
Well, Rod Rosenstein's job is not on the line. We expect him to continue his job as the Deputy Attorney General. But there is a Department of Justice Inspector General investigation going on that's looking at how the senior leadership at DOJ and the FBI may have played politics with this investigation, the Hillary Clinton email investigation, and certain other investigations, some of the steps that they had taken, which may have raised a lot of you know, questions about their conduct, about politics influencing these investigations. We're expecting that to come out in the next few weeks. It's going to shed light on a lot of these questions.
Raj, I want to share the ball here with
Sure.
Rachel. It's Super Bowl weekend, but I want to get one more quick one in there.
You got it.
Why isn't Rod Rosenstein's job on the line? I mean, I'm hearing some of the president's supporters on social media saying this was cooked up by Obama officials, but at least one of these warrants was continued for another 90 days by Rod Rosenstein, the man nominated by your boss, the President of the United States. How can he justify that? Why should he keep his job?
Well, we don't think that making a mistake in this instance necessarily, you know, should lead to somebody losing their job. Rod Rosenstein has served as the Deputy Attorney General. We want him to continue his role on that front. And, you know, we want to just, one thing, a point I really want to make is that you've heard from Democrats a lot of, this is unprecedented. The House Intelligence Committee has never done this before. They've never tried to release classified intelligence in this manner. This went through a process. It was voted out of the House. It went to the President. He allowed the intelligence community and the legal community to weigh in. What the Democrats do, they just leak it straight to the New York Times or the CNN illegally. So this went through a process. We're happy to see it out. We'd entertain other memos or documents, but it raises serious questions, and it went through a formal process, and we're happy to see that you know, it's going to be added to the debate.
Raj, Representative Devin Nunes says that this is just the beginning. Let's take a look at the sound and see what you say on the other side.
We are in the middle of what I call phase 2 of our investigation, which involves other departments, specifically the State Department and some of the involvement that they had in this. That investigation is ongoing, and we continue to work towards finding answers and asking the right questions to try to get to the bottom of what exactly the State Department was up to in terms of this Russia investigation.
So, Raj, you expect more to come out?
Well, we already have seen, this is frankly part of a pattern, right? We saw stuff regarding this investigation, regarding Peter Strzok and the text messages that got him taken off the case. We saw all sorts of questions raised about how former Director Jim Comey, who you had in the lead, you know, how he handled the Hillary Clinton investigation. If there are other departments or other individuals involved with mishandling this investigation and others like it, you know, we support congressional efforts and their oversight and support Chairman Nunes in his efforts.
While the memo is a huge story, the business of the government goes on, the business of the president goes on, and the president's headed to Ohio on Monday, continuing his agenda following the State of the Union. Why Ohio? What are we going to learn from the president?
Well, Ohio's a big state, and it's a great place, you know, to get our message out. Look, the president's message on Tuesday that tens of millions of Americans saw was pretty clear. We have an economy that's moving in the right direction. It's booming. You're seeing great gains in jobs. We had a great jobs report on Friday. You're seeing wages rise for the first time in a decade. You know, all the signs lead toward success. And you're seeing the tax bill and jobs being created from the tax bill. You're seeing announcements of investments, of 401k benefits, of bonuses. So we want to keep that momentum going.
Raj,
and a few of the issues that we're pointing to are infrastructure, immigration reform, and other areas where we can reach across the aisle.
Raj, any regrets about releasing the memo now? Because I think it really stepped on the message of the State of the Union, which I thought was really well done and unifying and well received by the American people.
Right, well, we don't get to control the process entirely. The House Intelligence Committee voted this out. They had a 5-day window, and so the president acted when he did to declassify it.
Okay.
Where are we on a DACA deal? Because the president in the State of the Union talked about this, and I can see clearly when we spoke at the Trump Hotel at that RNC event a couple nights ago, he spoke at the Republican retreat that Rachel was traveling with her family to. He's frustrated because he doesn't think Democrats actually want a deal.
Well, I mean, it's an open question whether Democrats want a deal. This president has shown leadership, reached across the aisle, and offered a plan that Democrats can and should be able to embrace. It's offering a pathway to legal status and eventual citizenship for people brought here illegally as minors by their parents. And in exchange for that, he wants a southern border wall that he campaigned on, and he wants additional border agents. He wants to end the visa lottery program, which is essentially playing Russian roulette. One of your hosts said this to me on another show, playing Russian roulette with American lives. It's a great analogy. And he wants to end the process of extended family chain migration and protecting the nuclear family. So these are reforms that a bipartisan group at the White House 2 or 3 weeks ago agreed to. And Democrats, if they're serious about reforming and not just demagoguing the issue, need to come up with solutions, need to come to the table and negotiate on these terms. Otherwise, they're making clear to the American people they're not actually interested in a solution.
Right. So if they don't step up before this deadline, is the deal gone? It's over?
Well, look, this is the president's proposal. He wants action on it. He believes that if we can give this legal status to these individuals while protecting the border and fixing the immigration system, that's the right path forward. We want to take it now. He'd sign it tomorrow. He'd sign it before or after the deadline.
Raj, finally, I need to call you out on the carpet for something. I believe you told our producer some fake news earlier, and that is unacceptable. From 2 Giants fans here, you're a Jets fan?
Tried and true since the day I was born. It can be a miserable existence sometimes.
Yes, it can.
Who's the president rooting for?
I'll be rooting for the Eagles this weekend.
Oh, all right.
That's like an anti-Giant pick, it sounds like. J-E-T-S.
It's an anti-Patriots pick.
All right.
Well, we'll have to leave it there. Thanks so much for joining us this morning, Raj.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
All right, turning now to your headlines. The deadly flu taking more lives, showing no signs of slowing down, especially for children. 16 kids have died in the last week alone, according to the CDC report. Oh, my goodness. Bringing the total to 53 flu-related pediatric deaths this season as hospitalizations soar. Health experts strongly encouraging everyone who hasn't had a flu shot to get one. A judge says she will not punish the father of 3 girls sexually abused by Michigan sports doctor Larry Nassar after he charged towards him in court. Watch this.
Grant me 5 minutes in a locked room with this demon.
Randall Margraves apologizing after a judge said, quote, there's no way she would fine or jail him. The sheriff's office, however, is still investigating.
I am no hero. My daughters are the heroes and all the victims and the survivors of this terrible atrocity.
A GoFundMe page has been set up for the Margraves family, already raising more than $24,000. More proof President Trump is making America win again. Best Buy now giving out bonuses to more than 100,000 employees, joining a growing list of companies sharing a portion of their windfall from President Trump's corporate tax cut. The electronic retailer saying it will pay one-time bonuses of $1,000 to full-time workers and $500 to part-time workers. Wow. For the first time in 30 years, the Marines are airing a Super Bowl ad targeting tough young recruits who are looking for a challenge.
And determination to win, found inside each and every Marine that answers a nation's call. Battles won.
Wow, looks like a movie. In an effort to attract 18 to 24-year-olds, the commercial will only air online for those streaming the game. And those are your headlines.
Yeah.
Right? That's
Yeah,
all.
I mean,
Everyone through
gets
the
you
wall.
jump-
That's awesome.
Absolutely.
Those are your headlines. Meanwhile, Democrats slamming Republicans for releasing that FISA memo. But even a member of Hillary Clinton's inner circle says it's time for an independent counsel to look into all of this. He joins us next.
Plus, it's a hit movie based on the true story of the Jamaican bobsled team. It's a cute movie. It's a great
Yeah, it's
movie,
fun.
right? But one school is putting Cool Runnings on ice because it's racist?
Oh, boy.
And Pete is...
I think it's terrible. You want to know the truth? I think it's a disgrace. What's going on in this country, I think it's a disgrace. The memo was sent to Congress. It was declassified. Congress will do whatever they're going to do. But I think it's a disgrace what's happening in our country.
President Trump making it clear where he stands on the controversial findings detailed in that FISA memo. The memo claims that the Trump campaign wouldn't have been spied on if it were not for the largely debunked Steele dossier funded, yes, by the DNC and the Hillary Clinton campaign.
Former Hillary Clinton chief strategist Mark Penn is calling for a new independent counsel to look into this, and he joins us now. Welcome, Mark.
Good morning.
Good morning. So you're a Democrat. You think that the information contained in this memo requires a special counsel, another investigation into this. Why are not more Democrats jumping on board? I mean, there are clear violations here.
Well, look, this has obviously not been a moment of bipartisanship. Look, I'm pretty surprised. I was most surprised, frankly, that the newspapers, the New York Times and the Washington Post, didn't want this memo printed, and both did editorials basically calling for prior restraint. Look, I think the memo really does raise some serious questions. There have been 6 members of either the Justice Department or the FBI who have either had to quickly resign or be fired here, and that just can't be over nothing. And at the same time, the very people named in the memo were actively going to the Hill to say, don't publish this memo. What greater conflict of interest could there be than that?
Mark, you make such an important point about hypocrisy, too, with the New York Times, the Washington Post. I remember covering the Bush White House, and when a lot of this government surveillance was revealed in terms of fighting al-Qaeda, they were screaming up and down, and with some good reason, about government secrecy, and we needed to know, we needed to hold these government officials accountable. Number one, they're not doing that now. But number two, I want you to bring into this James Comey, because some of your fellow Democrats were not mad about how were not happy, I should say, with how he handled the Hillary Clinton email matter. We should put that on the table. But then here he is telling President-elect Trump in January 2016, hey, there's this dossier, but it's unverified. But a couple months earlier, James Comey used that unverified dossier to get the government surveillance.
Well, not only that, but he has this very odd one-on-one meeting with President Trump that he initiates. So he initiates the first one-on-one, and he doesn't tell President Trump that it's paid for by the Democrats. Had that single fact been communicated, this whole thing might never have gone anywhere. So he concealed that from the president. Look, you know, Comey's recent tweets and actions here really show him to have been a national embarrassment as director of the FBI.
So where do we go from here? Because Rachel said special counsel is something you've talked about.
Right, and if we want to, I mean, they're saying that putting out this memo and questions that people have had on the Republican side about what the DOJ and FBI were doing is damaging the reputation of the FBI and the DOJ, but wouldn't cleaning it up be the way to regain trust in those institutions?
Yeah, look, I think this is clearly not about the rank and file of law enforcement. This was clearly people at the top. In fact, the people at the top deliberately brought the investigation under their control and took a number of actions here on all fronts that raise a tremendous amount of questions. I'm really puzzled, not whether Rod Rosenstein did anything right or wrong. I'm puzzled how he can continue to supervise the special counsel when he was a witness to this. He used the dossier.
Right.
He had to understand what was going on. He had to know whether it was paid for by the Democrats or he didn't ask. Either way, he's now a witness. All the people around him have either had to resign or be fired. And how could he stay as supervisor? I don't know that means that he's done anything wrong, but he has a real conflict of interest now.
Well,
good point.
Mark Penn, one of the sharpest political minds of this generation. Certainly, we appreciate you coming in.
Thank you.
Still to come, a lot more sharp minds. We got David Bossie, Geraldo Rivera, Texas Congressman Will Hurd, and our own Neil Cavuto, all here live.
And this 12-year-old boy caught President Trump's attention by going above and beyond to honor our fallen heroes. The president paying tribute to him at the State of the Union. What was that like? That boy, Preston Sharp, joins us next live to tell us all about it.
Welcome. Some Super Bowl news by the numbers. First, 51.7 million. That's how many cases of beer are sold on Super Bowl Sunday. Next, 14.5 thousand. That's how many tons of chips will be scarfed down at Super Bowl parties tomorrow. And finally, 1.3 billion with a B. That's how many chicken wings will be eaten during the big game, according to the National Chicken Council. So we should probably check that out. That number is up by 2% since last year. All of these super stats, according to WalletHub.com. Rachel?
Alrighty, young patriot is gaining national attention.
After visiting his grandfather's grave, 12-year-old Preston Sharp noticed that there were hardly any other flags on grave sites for other veterans on Veterans Day. That's when he took it upon himself to organize flags for more than 40,000 grave sites.
This patriotic act got Preston an invite to the State of the Union, where President Trump paid tribute to his service.
Preston's reverence for those who have served our nation reminds us of why we salute our flag, why we put our hands on our hearts for the Pledge of Allegiance, and why we proudly stand for the national anthem.
Preston, welcome to Fox and Friends. We're so excited to have you.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Hey.
So tell us really quick how Flags and Flowers got started.
Okay, so Flags and Flowers got started Veterans Day of 2015, right after my 10th birthday. I went to a local cemetery near me, and I went there thinking that it was Veterans Day and I was going to see a lot of flags out on the veterans' grave sites, and there wasn't. So, and it wasn't really a well taken care of cemetery. So I got frustrated with that, and I wanted to honor veterans, and I just wanted to start honoring them. So,
Preston, not to attack all your fellow 12-year-olds, but you know, most 12-year-olds that I know are playing video games and really not focused on honoring our heroes. Why are you different?
Well, my mom taught me that if you see something wrong, to do something about it and not let it get worse, because the cemetery had really, really high grass and it just wasn't really well taken care of.
So good parenting, sounds like. Preston, so first of all, I'm obsessed with Melania Trump, and you got to sit next to her. Tell us what she's like.
Well, she's really nice, and that was just a huge honor to be at the State of the Union sitting next to Melania Trump, and it was amazing.
How did you actually find out that you were invited to the State of the Union?
My mom got an email one night when we were eating dinner, and it's
so random.
The White House just like emailed us.
Coming to the State of the Union.
Pretty easy.
Did you meet anybody else while you were down there?
I met the Vice President, the Secretary of the VA, the Undersecretary of the VA, and I think that's all who I met.
That's still
there.
a pretty big
It's
cast
pretty
of
good.
characters right there.
So, Preston, I've been to the
Yeah,
State of
there's
the Preston. I've been to the State of the Union. It's a pretty awesome experience. What can you tell other kids about that experience that you had sitting in the gallery?
Oh, the experience. It was just amazing seeing everyone there, and because I recognized a lot of Congress people, and it was just amazing.
Yeah, there's a lot of sort of ceremony about it, and it's a beautiful room too.
Any message to your fellow preteens or anybody else who wants to get involved with the mission? How do they go about doing that?
So I have a Facebook page that I post when I'm going to be at the cemetery and where.
Okay.
So
What is
that's
that?
Preston C. Sharp, and
And
that's
is,
how.
Preston, is this catching on so other kids can do this in their own community?
Yes, it is starting to get more kids because I'm going to all 50 states now.
Wow.
That's awesome. And what do you think your grandfather would say about your efforts?
I don't really know because I never met him. So.
You think he'd be proud,
but,
though?
Yeah, I think he would be pretty proud.
Well, we're all proud of you, too. You're a great example, and I'm glad that President Trump picked you because you really deserved it. So thanks for joining us, Preston.
Yeah.
You're a great role model.
Yeah, thank you.
Nice
You
job,
got
Preston.
it. All right, still ahead. Former FBI Director James Comey ripping apart the FISA memo, tweeting, "That's it." Congressman Jim Jordan is fired up about that, and you're going to hear from him next.
And tomorrow is game day, but are you ready, Elizabeth Campos, for your Super Bowl party? We've got the best burgers, wings, and snacks to win over your guests. It smells awesome in here.
It does smell
We
great
gonna
in
eat
here.
next.
Somebody first reads that dossier, I would think you would come away from that and think, okay, this is really this is wild stuff. Let's not forget where the dossier came from. It came from Russians. So there's clear evidence of collusion with the Russians. It just happens to be with the Hillary Clinton campaign and the Democratic National Committee that the news media fails to talk about or fails to even investigate. We are in the middle of what I call phase 2 of our investigation, which involves other departments, specifically the State Department and some of the involvement that they had in this. That investigation is ongoing, and we continue to work towards finding answers and asking the right questions to try to get to the bottom of what exactly the State Department was up to in terms of this Russian investigation.
So a couple things there. Devin Nunes really talking about a complete 180 from what you'd hear in the mainstream media. The mainstream media says it's all about the Russia collusion narrative with the president.
Oh, no. Now it's obstruction.
Obstruction.
They moved on.
So it's moved to obstruction. But if you hear Devin Nunes talk about it, it's beyond that. It's the Russian collusion with the Clinton campaign and, oh, yeah, this memo, which, quite frankly, is just the tip of the iceberg.
And the man in the center of that latter narrative would be James Comey, who we saw a moment ago, because he was one of the officials who signed his name to get the initial FISA warrant and used the dirty dossier, which, that's in late 2016. And then in early 2017, he goes to President-elect Donald Trump and says, oh, there's this dossier that's unverified. Even though
salacious.
Even though he used it to get surveillance. Interesting. James Comey reacting yesterday. That's it, he says, about the Republican memo. Dishonest and misleading memo wrecked the House Intel Committee, destroyed trust with intelligence community, damaged relationship with FISA court, and inexcusably exposed classified investigation of an American citizen, Carter Page. For what? DOJ and FBI must keep doing their jobs. 2 quick points. One, James Comey does not push back on a single material
No
fact of the memo. No fact is challenged. It's just all talking points. Number 2, we had Jim Jordan, the Republican congressman who's been at the center of this, pressing. He told us not only does he want a special counsel, but he wants James Comey and a lot of these other senior officials looked at.
I think what's also interesting, this memo is based on information that Devin Nunes and the House Intelligence Committee got from the DOJ and FBI. So now the DOJ and FBI is saying, this is nothing, this is a nothing burger, but remember, Devin Nunes had to fight for months to get this information. The DOJ and FBI did not want to turn it over and didn't turn it over until there was a contempt from Congress threat by Devin Nunes and the committee. So if there's nothing there, if this means nothing, if it's a nothing burger as Comey says, why were they fighting to give that information over to Nunes?
Absolutely.
You mentioned the word fight. He also had to fight his good name being dragged through the mud
Absolutely.
on almost every network out there, obviously, besides ours.
By the way, we would know very little about Fusion GPS without Devin Nunes months ago demanding the bank records. And that's how we found out that the DNC and the Clinton campaign paid for this dossier, which, by the way, was not told to the FISA judge.
And this is their strategy, to completely discredit Nunes. I think he's coming out quite vindicated from this memo and from what looks like is going to be, as he says, more to come.
I'm going to put lawyer hat on for a second here. I love doing that because it's the only really contribution I can make. But if you sort of went to a different country, nobody knew any of the players, nobody knew any of this stuff, and you just presented these facts as is, just the facts in the memo, mind you, I think a jury would convict the bad guys in this 99% of the time, which shows everything that's in the media right now is just so politicized because of the names involved.
And the lack of curiosity on the part of the media.
What do you think? Friends at FoxNews.com. We'll be reading those rest of the show.
All right, turning now to headlines. Indiana is adding a work requirement for adults on Medicaid, making it the second state behind Kentucky to tie health care coverage to employment. The change could lead to more than 130,000 people losing coverage if they fail to complete paperwork for the program. Enrollees must show that they are working an average of 20 hours a month. Those who don't submit paperwork will be locked out of enrollment for 3 months. A new mandate goes into effect next year. A woman missing for months, spotted in a rather visible place, The Bachelor. Becca Martinez's mom says she hasn't heard from her daughter since November after allegedly working on a marijuana farm. But fans of the dating reality show noticed a picture of her in a missing persons article in California and instantly recognized her. Martinez now speaking out on Twitter, writing, "Mom, how many times do I have to tell you I don't get cell service on The Bachelor?" No artificial feelings. Whole Food employees say strict store policies are so stressful, crying on the job is the new norm. They're blaming empty shelves on a store inventory system that doesn't allow them to keep extra food in storage. One employee telling Business Insiders the policy gives her nightmares. Employees say they hope Amazon will make changes after buying the grocery store for billions in August. And those are your headlines.
Right around the corner, we've got some last-minute party food tips that will wow your Super Bowl guests.
Joe Isidori is chef and owner of Black Tap Craft Burgers and Beer.
What's up,
and dude, we're gonna rock this. Let's eat.
Yeah, we got a big spread for you, a Super Bowl spread. About the fixings, we've got some pulled pork, we've got some coleslaw. I'm making a mess over here on purpose, by the way.
It's all right.
All right?
Stuff that falls
That's
off
it.
to the side.
And then that's grilling burgers is the best thing to do, but a cast iron pan is the best way to cook a burger. It's got a nice sear on it, 2 pieces of cheese, never 1.
Good stuff.
Cheddar makes everything better, right? You guys want to eat some stuff and grab a burger or something?
We want to thank you, Chef Joe, and also the folks at Party City for all this game day decor.
Yes, you guys just opened up in Las Vegas.
Already dominated New York City. Going global.
That's it. Worldwide. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, buddy.
Thank you. Thank
Happy
you.
Super Bowl.
Happy Super Bowl. That's it.